Dr. Samuel Chen adjusted his collar for the fourth time, trying to ignore the shimmer of the crystalline chamber that surrounded him. The Valian embassy aboard the diplomatic cruiser Harmony's Edge was a masterpiece of alien artistry, towering translucent walls that bent light like it was liquid, ceremonial glyphs that pulsed with meaning only if you knew how to read them, and guards whose armor looked like starlight had been folded into metal. He'd studied this culture for nearly a decade, but nothing in his research had quite prepared him for being immersed in it. And nothing had prepared him for this meeting. 6 months of trade deadlock between humanity and the Valian Empire had led to this exact moment. A private audience with Empress Lyra herself. Samuel wasn't just the cultural consultant this time, he was the lead interpreter, responsible for translating not just words, but meaning, tone, intent. Dr. Chen, whispered Ambassador Rodriguez, barely moving his lips, remember. Directness over courtesy. Don't get too wrapped up in flowery greetings. Samuel gave a tight nod, though the knot in his stomach disagreed. Then the doors opened with a sound like chimes made of frost. Empress Lyra stepped through with impossible grace, tall, ethereal, her blue-tinted skin catching the light in a way that made her seem like she was carved from moonlight. Her eyes, violet and unblinking, fixed on Samuel immediately. Ambassador Rodriguez. Dr. Chen, she said, her voice a melody threaded with steel. We are honored you accepted our invitation. Samuel bowed, every muscle locked into the Valian style, precisely 32 degrees from the waist, hands placed symmetrically. The honor is ours, Your Majesty. We are hopeful today's discussion will help overcome the final barriers to unity. Perhaps, she said with a faint, unreadable smile. Though I suspect we'll be discussing more than commerce. Before anyone could unpack that cryptic comment, a giggle broke the silence. A small figure darted into view from a side corridor, a child, no older than 6 in human years. Her skin was the same cool blue as the Empress, but her ears were still rounded, marking her youth. Her dark hair shimmered with silver threads woven in noble braids. She wore a simple, gem-dusted dress. Zara, Lyra said, calm but firm. You were supposed to remain in your chambers. But Mama, I heard voices. And, the girl's words froze mid-sentence as her gaze locked on Samuel. Her expression shifted from curiosity to delight so fast it was disarming. She pointed at him, finger trembling. That's him, she said. Mom, that's the man from my dreams. The chamber plunged into silence. Every Valian guard tensed, hands inching toward their weapons. Samuel felt his data slate slip from his fingers. Rodriguez blinked like someone trying to recalibrate reality. Excuse me, what? Even the Empress looked briefly shaken. She recovered quickly, but not before Samuel saw something flicker behind her eyes, hope. And something heartbreakingly close to grief. I'm sorry, Samuel said, voice tight. But I think there's been a mistake. I don't know this child. Yes, you do, Zara insisted, stepping closer. You told me about snow, and oceans, and ice cream. You said humans and Valians could be friends if we just learned to talk. Samuel's breath caught. He didn't know this girl. He couldn't know her. But there was something in the conviction of her voice, something in the way she looked at him, that triggered a flicker of something deeper. Zara, the Empress said again, softer now, almost reverent. Return to your chambers. We'll talk later. No, Zara said with a child's simple certainty. He's the kind man from my dreams. He said he'd help us. Samuel turned to the Empress, his diplomatic instincts rattling. Your Majesty, perhaps we should speak privately. Yes, she agreed immediately. We should. The Empress waved to her guards. Escort Ambassador Rodriguez to the guest suite. Dr. Chen and I have matters to clarify. Rodriguez opened his mouth to object, but Samuel beat him to it. I'll update you the moment I know more. The ambassador looked unconvinced but complied, vanishing behind a shimmer of armored Valian soldiers. Now it was just Samuel, the Empress, and a child who looked at him like he was the answer to every question she'd ever had. "Zara," Lyra said gently, "why don't you tell Dr. Chen what you've been dreaming about?" Zara skipped forward without hesitation, her eyes never leaving his. "Every night for 3 months," she said, "I dream about you. You smell like books and tea and determination." Samuel blinked. "And when you smile," she added, "your eyes crinkle just like they are now." His hand went involuntarily to his face. What?" he managed. "You taught me words in human language. Showed me pictures of animals from Earth. And you said something important." She paused. "You said my people and yours could be great together if we trusted each other." He turned to Lyra, the words barely forming. "Why did you really bring me here?" The Empress met his gaze. "Because, the night my daughter began dreaming of you was the night her father died." That stopped him. Samuel sat down hard, not trusting his legs to keep him standing. "Kale Morks," Lyra said softly. "Captain of the Royal Fleet. He died 3 months ago defending a civilian vessel." 3 months ago, Samuel whispered. "That's when the negotiations began falling apart." "And that's when the dream started," Lyra confirmed. Zara nodded. "Daddy was in the first dream. He said to find the human who smells like books and tea. He said it was really important." A name exploded like a firework in Samuel's brain. Kale Morks. He remembered.
A classified mission. 5 years ago. A Velian officer who went against orders to prevent an interstellar crisis. The man had been brave, fiercely loyal, and completely unlike any other Velian Samuel had met. They'd talked for hours. Argued. Laughed. And then parted ways. Nothing official. No contact after. Until now. "Your Majesty," he said hoarsely. "What did he look like?" Lyra's voice was tight with memory. Tall. Silver in his hair. Warrior scars on his temple. "Oh my God," Samuel whispered. "I knew Kale." "You did?" Zara asked, hope blooming across her face. Samuel nodded. "He was one of the finest people I've ever met." Zara beamed. "Did you tell him about ice cream?" He blinked. Then, despite himself, laughed. "Yes. Actually, I did." Lyra smiled, something breaking in her expression. "He brought me some, after that mission. Said it was called, happiness food." Samuel felt the ground shift beneath him. Zara's dreams weren't random. They were filled with real memories. Real feelings. Kale's final thoughts, Samuel murmured, they weren't just about dying. They were about peace. Lyra nodded. And somehow, he entrusted those thoughts to the only 2 people who might make that peace possible. The chamber they had moved to was quieter, more intimate, its crystalline walls still shimmered, but the light was muted, pulsing like the rhythm of a heartbeat. Samuel sat beside Zara on a low bench of carved stone that softened at his touch. The Empress sat across from them, her posture perfect, but her eyes, normally unreadable, were filled with something unmistakably human, grief, tightly wrapped around hope. For the next hour, Samuel was swept into the most surreal conversation of his diplomatic career. Zara swung her feet as she talked, her voice a melodic cadence of childhood curiosity and unnerving accuracy. She asked about Earth, about snow falling from the sky, about oceans that stretched to the horizon. Every question mirrored something personal, as if she'd lived it, or remembered it, from someone else. Samuel was still reeling from the realization that he had known her father. More than that, they'd shared something real. Kale had trusted him, laughed with him, confided in him. And now, impossibly, pieces of that connection were alive in this little girl. "Is it true that water falls from the sky?" Zara asked, eyes wide. "Yes," Samuel said. "It's called rain. And when it's cold, it becomes snow. I dreamed about snow, Zara said confidently. You showed me how to catch snowflakes on my tongue. Samuel froze. That memory, he had explained that exact custom during his mission with Kale. But not to a child. Lyra leaned forward slightly. Zara, what did you tell Dr. Chen about ice cream? The child's eyes lit up. Oh. Ice cream is the best thing ever. It's cold and sweet and comes in all kinds of flavors. Humans eat it for happiness, not just energy. She turned to Samuel and said, with complete sincerity, any species that invents happiness food must be good at heart. Samuel couldn't help but laugh. That's a very sound diplomatic principle. I told Mama you were nice, Zara said, bouncing a little. You have the same laugh in my dreams. Samuel turned to Lyra, sobering. You said the dreams began the night Captain Morks, Kale, died? She nodded, her face tightening again. He was killed defending a civilian convoy. Pirates near the Antari border. 3 months ago, Samuel said, putting the timeline together. That's when the human-Valian negotiations started deteriorating. Without him. Without Kale, Lyra said softly, there was no bridge between our cultures. Zara leaned against Samuel's arm. Daddy was in my first dream. He said to find you. He said you'd understand. A weight settled in Samuel's chest. What did he say exactly? He said, find the human who smells like books and tea. He'll know what to do. Samuel blinked, stunned. That's exactly how Kale used to tease him on the mission, about his endless tea thermos and academic scent. The specificity was undeniable. He turned to Lyra, voice thick. You think Kale's consciousness somehow persisted? In her? Lyra hesitated. Valian consciousness is more layered than human neurobiology. Strong emotional bonds, especially at the moment of death, can leave echoes. Fragments. You mean his final thoughts somehow, imprinted on his daughter? I'm saying, she said carefully, that his dying focus was on protecting Zara and securing peace. And those thoughts, through some mechanism we don't yet understand, took root in her. Zara's voice was soft now. Dr. Chen. I don't always know what's me and what's daddy. The feelings get mixed up. Sometimes I feel things I don't understand. Like I miss you, even though I just met you. Samuel swallowed. That's a lot for one person to carry. I don't mind, she said brightly. It means Daddy trusted me. But I want help figuring out what's mine and what's his. Lyra nodded. We have a way. A consciousness sharing protocol. Safe. Monitored. But it would require your memories too. Samuel's eyebrows lifted. Mine. She's dreaming about your interactions with Kale. We need your perspective to help her understand the context. To help her separate herself from her father. Samuel looked at the child beside him, so full of trust, and wonder, and something old beyond her years. What would I need to do? Share your memories. Let our consciousness specialists map both sides of the bond. Zara reached for his hand, her voice suddenly very small. Would it hurt? No, Samuel said gently. And I'll be right there the whole time. The memory-sharing chamber looked like a sacred sanctuary and a futuristic operating room had merged. Luminescent panels curved upward like wings. The floor beneath the central dais rippled faintly as if alive. Samuel stood in a triangle formation with Zara and Lyra, surrounded by Valian consciousness specialists and spiritual guides. He was far from Earth, far from anything familiar, but this felt important. The lead specialist, Dr. Velnara, gave him a clinical once-over. I must caution you, Dr. Chen. Human minds aren't designed for this level of entanglement. You may feel disoriented. Emotionally raw. I'm used to emotional whiplash, Samuel said. I'm a diplomat. Zara giggled. I should warn you, Daddy's memories include some embarrassing moments. Like what? He thought you were very brave, but also really bad at noticing when people liked you. Samuel gave Lyra a long-suffering look. That tracks. She smiled behind her hand. The ritual began. Light bloomed outward, forming a translucent field that linked their thoughts. Samuel felt his awareness shift, his memories no longer private. He could sense Zara's presence, bright and curious. Then, another current. Calmer, older. Kale. Samuel gasped as memory unfolded, not from his point of view, but from Kale's. He saw himself through Kale's eyes. Nervous, idealistic, infuriatingly correct about diplomacy and peace. Daddy thought you were nervous because you cared, Zara's mental voice said warmly. Not because you were scared. I was terrified, Samuel admitted aloud. You didn't show it. They dove deeper. Samuel saw the Riel incident again, only this time, he felt Kale's admiration. How Kale had been prepared for war, but found himself re-evaluating everything after one conversation with a human who refused to back down from peace. Zara chimed in. Daddy thought honor wasn't just following orders. It was doing the right thing. Even when it's hard. I remember when he saved my life, Samuel whispered. When the ceasefire failed. He got me to the evac point. He didn't have to, but he said. You're worth protecting, because you see us as people, not enemies, Zara finished for him. Memories spiraled outward, long nights of philosophical debate, tactical strategy balanced with cultural nuance. Then, ice cream. Samuel laughed as the memory bloomed. Kale's absolute bafflement at food designed purely for joy. His endless questions. And after that, Zara added, he asked about friendship. He didn't understand why humans would be loyal to someone who wasn't their superior. Samuel smiled. I told him that humans believe friendship is a kind of duty. One you choose. That's when he trusted you, she said with childlike certainty. Lyra, watching silently, finally spoke. Kale came home changed. More thoughtful. More joyful. He brought ice cream to family dinners, Zara giggled. Said it was happiness food. Samuel blinked back tears. He really did believe we could be more than allies. That we could be friends. That's why I dream about you, Zara said. Daddy wanted me to keep going. The connection pulsed warmly as the specialists began decoupling the threads of memory, carefully untangling Kale's legacy from Zara's own growing identity. How do you feel? Samuel asked gently. Better, she said, her smile small but real. I still remember everything. But now I know which thoughts are mine. And what have you learned? He asked. Zara tilted her head. That Daddy chose you because you were kind and brave. And that I choose you too. Samuel's heart squeezed. Zara. I'd be honored to be your friend. To help you carry what your father left you, and build something new of your own. Lyra watched them with something that shimmered like starlight and sorrow. Dr. Chen, she said, her voice formal again, will you accept a permanent role at the Valian court? My daughter needs someone who knew her father, and believes in what he believed. Samuel looked down at Zara, who was beaming at him like the stars themselves had chosen him. Your Majesty, he said softly, I think that's the most important assignment I've ever been offered. 6 months later, Samuel Chen stood ankle-deep in synthetic snow, inside a temperature-controlled simulation chamber on the Valian capital moon. He was waving his arms awkwardly while trying to demonstrate the human ritual known as making a snow angel. Princess Zara was watching with rapt attention, her violet eyes filled with wonder and something far more dangerous, ideas. So you just lie down in the cold and flap around? It's not that mechanical, Samuel said, attempting to stand without slipping. It's supposed to be fun. Happiness activity, Zara said with a sage nod. Like ice cream, but with your whole body. Exactly, Samuel said, brushing snow off his sleeves. From her elegant position on the royal viewing platform, Empress Lyra watched with both amusement and maternal caution. The chamber might have been filled with snow, but the temperature was kept comfortably warm. Valian physiology wasn't built for Earth-level cold, and Samuel had learned that the hard way during the first simulation when Zara insisted on authenticity. I appreciate your dedication to cultural exchange, Lyra called down dryly. Samuel gave a mock bow. All part of the diplomatic package. He stepped out of the snowfield and into the warm stone area where the day's formal proceedings were about to begin. Zara skipped beside him, already launching into a dozen ideas at once. Okay, she said. Today we talk about school exchanges, cultural festivals, and shared science missions. But first, can we discuss the ice cream flavors we'll have at the interspecies summer camp? Samuel sighed with exaggerated weariness. You have an agenda longer than some planetary constitutions. You said diplomacy is just structured enthusiasm, she quipped. He blinked. That's disturbingly accurate. Lyra rose as the session began. Dr. Chen, the Earth Council has formally approved the revised trade agreement, including the cultural protocols Princess Zara suggested. Zara lifted her chin proudly. I suggested student exchanges, human children studying with Valian children. So they learn together, not apart. It was an excellent suggestion, Lyra said warmly. Though I understand Dr. Chen may have helped refine the logistics. Only the boring parts, Samuel said. Zara's ideas were the ones worth building around. Over the months, this strange trio had become something extraordinary. Samuel, the human diplomat who had once studied Valian culture in textbooks, was now living it, shaping it, and being shaped by it in turn. Lyra, sovereign and grieving widow, had become not just an ally but a friend. And Zara, bright, unstoppable Zara, had become a bridge between worlds. The initial memory-sharing ritual had gone deeper than expected. Zara hadn't just inherited her father's memories, she'd absorbed his perspective, his values, and his vision. That inheritance, fused with her own curiosity, had made her a force of diplomatic innovation no council had anticipated. The council was particularly impressed by your proposal for joint scientific expeditions, Lyra continued. Humans jump to conclusions, Zara explained, hopping onto her ceremonial stool. Valians overanalyze. Together, we make good guesses and check them. That's not how I phrased it in the report, Samuel muttered. It's how I thought it, Zara said smugly. A soft chime sounded as a holographic panel lit up beside the throne. The image of Ambassador Rodriguez flickered into view, smiling with the ease of a man no longer confused by interspecies memory-sharing children. Your Majesty. Dr. Chen, he said with a formal nod. I'm pleased to report that the Earth Council has ratified all 16 provisions of the Alliance framework. The first cultural exchange begins next month. Excellent, Lyra said. This is the beginning of a new era. If I may add, Rodriguez continued, Dr. Chen's insights have accomplished more than years of formal negotiation. His reports, particularly those co-authored with Princess Zara, have provided depth we didn't think possible. Zara beamed. We taught him about friendship protocols. Samuel nodded. Turns out many of Valian society's formal structures are actually invitations to connection, not barriers. And human informality isn't rudeness, Zara added. It's trust. Rodriguez gave a rare, genuine grin. Princess, you've been invaluable. I had help, she said, nudging Samuel. Friends work better in pairs. The call ended. Lyra turned to Samuel, her expression softer now. Samuel, she said, no titles, no formality. I need to ask you something personal. He tilted his head. Of course. Are you happy here? The question hit harder than he expected. He looked around, the familiar shimmer of the Valian palace, the warmth of the simulation chamber, the steady rhythm of their unofficial family rituals. Zara, seated beside him, was drawing an elaborate map of places to eat ice cream on Earth. Lyra watched them with the expression she reserved for late-night tea sessions and memory debates, pride laced with something deeper. "Lyra," Samuel said, "I've never been happier in my life." She exhaled, relieved. "This isn't just diplomacy," he said. "It's purpose. It's legacy. And, if I'm being honest, it's home. Even when she wakes you at 3 a.m. with a new theory about her father's memories." Lyra teased. "Especially then," he said, smiling. Zara looked up. "He makes good bedtime snacks. You know humans have 17 ways to prepare milk," she added. 5, Samuel corrected. "Maybe 6. Still more than us," Zara said proudly. "We should add it to the exchange curriculum." "Duly noted," he said. The formal session was over, but none of them moved. These moments, after business, before bedtime, had become sacred. Zara called it family conversation time. Samuel never missed it. "Samuel," Zara said suddenly. "Yes, Princess. In Daddy's memories, he was always sad when you had to leave. Do you know why?" Samuel paused. He hadn't spoken of this part, even in the memory sessions. "I think," he said slowly, he understood that real friendship doesn't end when the mission's over. "But I didn't. I was too busy being professional. Too cautious." "Daddy wasn't," she said. "He wanted to visit Earth. To see snow. To try ice cream. To meet your friends." Samuel froze. "He was planning that?" Zara nodded. "He'd requested travel permits before. The room fell quiet. Samuel felt grief rise like a wave, but beneath it, a deep sense of gratitude. Cale hadn't just remembered him. He'd wanted to continue their friendship. Zara reached for his hand. "Can we go to Earth?" Samuel looked at Lyra, who didn't hesitate. "Yes," she said. "As a family trip." Zara's smile could have lit a galaxy. "Good," she said. "Because I've been thinking about joint birthday parties. For the exchange program. Human and Valian children learning each other's happiness traditions." "That's," Samuel blinked. "Actually brilliant." "Of course it is," Zara said, all 6-year-old confidence. "I have the best advisors in the galaxy." As they shifted into planning their Earth visit, complete with snow angels, food lists, and diplomacy disguised as play, Samuel realized something extraordinary. This wasn't a mission anymore. This was the future. The air aboard the Harmony's edge shimmered faintly with ceremonial light as Samuel Chen, Lyra, and Zara stood before the council of senior human and Valian diplomats. But this time, the tone was different, lighter, warmer. The tension of first contact had softened into something else, mutual respect. In front of the assembly, Zara stood on a raised platform, barefoot, confident, a crystal-threaded sash looped around her waist. She cleared her throat and opened the presentation they'd rehearsed dozens of times. But instead of her usual cheerful rush, she spoke with measured purpose. "My name is Princess Zara Morks of the Valian Empire," she said. "And I would like to thank you all for helping me build something my father started, with his friend." She turned and gestured to Samuel, who stepped forward, his diplomatic robes now stitched with both human and Valian symbology. "Dual allegiance. We are here today," he said, "not because of war, not because of crisis, but because of memory. A memory passed from a father to his daughter, and from one friend to another." In the audience, Ambassador Rodriguez nodded solemnly, eyes a little shinier than usual. "We've always thought that diplomacy needed treaties and trade agreements," Samuel continued. "And it does. But sometimes it also needs bedtime stories, and ice cream, and shared dreams." Zara smiled at him. "You forgot snow angels." Samuel bowed. And snow angels. The crowd chuckled softly, but no one laughed it off. Because the truth was, Zara had changed everything. When the session ended, and the chamber slowly emptied, Samuel found himself standing beside Lyra once again, their daughter, not by blood, but by bond, happily spinning on her heels nearby. "She did well," Lyra said. "She always does. You were worried she'd freeze." "She's braver than I'll ever be," Samuel replied, watching Zara. Lyra folded her hands. "You've given her more than understanding. You've given her confidence. Stability. A sense of identity that's hers, not just a shadow of her father's." Samuel took a long breath. "I didn't do it alone." Lyra glanced sideways. "Would you like to?" He blinked. "Like to what?" "Stop doing it alone." Samuel's breath caught. He looked at her, really looked at her. In the months since he'd become part of their lives, there had been shared glances, long conversations, quiet moments at dusk, but always under the veil of formality. Until now. "You're asking me to." "I'm not asking anything," Lyra said softly. "I'm offering. Not because of duty. Not because of legacy. Because I believe in the same things Cale did. That trust matters. That friendship matters. That chosen family is stronger than obligation." Samuel didn't speak at first. He watched Zara chase light patterns across the floor, her laughter echoing off crystal walls. "Then I choose you," he said. "Both of you." Lyra smiled. "Good." Later that evening, they gathered in their private garden, Samuel, Lyra, and Zara, wrapped in warmth and candlelight. The stars above flickered through the transparent dome like distant blessings. Zara pulled out a crumpled piece of digital parchment. "Okay," she announced, "I've drafted our Earth itinerary." "Oh no," Samuel groaned. "Not another list." "Too late," she grinned. "We start in Iceland. Snow guaranteed. Then to Tokyo for street food diplomacy. Then a visit to a human library so I can understand why you always smell like books." Lyra chuckled. "Also," Zara added, "I have one more idea." Samuel raised an eyebrow. "Just one?" "It's a big one," she said solemnly. "A galactic friendship celebration. Not just humans and Velians. Everyone. A day where people bring their food and stories and games. No politics. Just fun." Samuel blinked. "You want to create a pan-species peace festival?" "Exactly," she said brightly. He turned to Lyra. "We've created a monster." "No," Lyra said, her gaze warm. "You helped reveal a legacy." As the stars spun slowly overhead, Samuel realized this wasn't the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a new kind of diplomacy, one not built on fear or necessity, but on connection, compassion, and the fierce belief that friendship could rewrite history. He looked at Zara, curled up between them with a tablet in her lap, drawing snow angels on alien ground. "Cale," he whispered to the stars, "we didn't forget. We're still building. And together, one story, one memory, one laughter-filled dream at a time, they would." And that's how a single child's dream reshaped the destiny of two civilizations. Not with weapons. Not with conquest. But with curiosity, laughter, and the quiet echo of a father's love passed on through memory. Dr. Samuel Chen began his journey as a cultural interpreter, bound by formality and protocols. But he found something more, something no textbook could teach. A friend in a fallen warrior. A daughter in a child not his own. And a future he never dared imagine. Through Zara's visions and Lyra's trust, humanity and the Valian Empire discovered a new path forward, one forged not in fear, but in friendship. The cultural exchange programs blossomed. Snow became a diplomatic metaphor. Ice cream became a universal symbol for joy. And the annual Unity Festival, first imagined by a 6-year-old, grew to become the galaxy's most beloved celebration. Zara grew up not just as a princess, but as a peacebuilder. And Samuel? He never returned to his old life on Earth. Because he'd already found home. Let this story remind us, the most powerful alliances aren't sealed with signatures, but with stories, laughter, shared tears, and the courage to believe that even across galaxies, hearts can understand each other. If this tale moved you, helped you smile, or made you see diplomacy in a new light, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes in the magic of connection. You never know who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep listening, and never underestimate the power of a single act of kindness to change the stars.